Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.
Eric Beach of Appleton is a Republican candidate in the 57th Assembly District. Eric, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate your sponsor. This is a great way to get to know candidates. So I'm glad an organization is and sponsors come together to do it, to give everybody a voice and give everybody a chance to see and talk to their candidates.
Thanks very much. One of your central issues on your campaign websites is, let me quote it, "I will resist all tax hikes." Why is that a key part of why you're running?
Well, I'm frustrated with government sometimes. I'm frustrated with our departments and agencies. I'm frustrated with taxes and fees. You know, if it's not a gas tax, it's a DMV fee. If it's not a property tax increase, it's an income tax increase. And it's hard. It's harder to have home ownership. It's harder to have a vehicle. It's harder to have all the things we need in life with all these fees and taxes we get. And people are overburdened. And the lower you are on the economic ladder, the harder it is. Every tiny increase is more dramatic if you have a tighter income. Our departments and agencies are well funded. We spend a lot of money. Every year our budget goes up $7 million. So I don't see why we can't ask departments and agencies to run more efficiently, challenge them. What are ways you can be more efficient? Are there middlemen you can cut out? Are there efficiency measures that we can take?
Okay.
So I don't have a problem with asking departments to do that.
Okay. Well, you've just answered a couple of my questions. The governor last year recommended an increase in the gas tax. You are a no on that, correct?
No, not a complete no. I'd resist things. We still have infrastructure to pay for. We need good roads. It's a delicate balancing act between all of our social needs and the cost of it.
Yep. Okay. Understand.
But I don't want to raise taxes. I don't want to raise the gas tax. I don't want to raise DMV fees, but we got stuff to pay for, and cost of goods goes up every year.
Yeah. There was just a report issued that the state tax collections went up slightly in the year that ended June 30, but everybody's worried about the current year because of the pandemic. So
right.
If we don't collect $1 billion, $1.5 billion, you don't want to raise taxes. What programs would you cut then, Eric?
I guess I would definitely talk to, maybe suggest something across the board, like every department cuts their budget by 2% or 3%.
Okay.
Something like that. But I would definitely talk to the Joint Committee. I would talk to the fiduciary. It's a complex subject, and some things there is no wiggle room.
Okay, let's ask a few questions about the pandemic. First one, Senate Republicans, state Senate Republicans would like to come back to the Capitol and overturn the governor's statewide face mask edict. What's your position on the face mask edict, sir?
Leave it alone. Let it be what it is. We'll see if COVID spikes more, if it doesn't spike more. We don't need to be fighting. We don't need to be fighting the governor. I'm sure he's already facing lawsuits or opposition for it. There's no reason for the assembly to waste their time on this right now.
Okay. We've seen the role that hospitals both in Wisconsin and nationally play in treating COVID-19 patients. If you're elected, voting on the next state budget, should hospitals be an even greater funding priority than they are perhaps in the current budget?
I would like to spend as much money as possible on our healthcare. And I know that their costs went up, and probably their income went down because a lot of services were cut out. But just like every business and every resident, we all had income shortfalls because of COVID. A lot of households went down to one income households, or because they couldn't put their child in school, they have daycare costs. So we're all facing this economic shortfall. So would I love to give this to the hospitals? Yes. Is it realistic? No, we're already facing a $2 billion shortfall. So giving them more money is probably not realistic.
Okay. The Republicans who control the US Senate, and yesterday, a Republican state senator here suggested a bill that if a business or an organization has complied with CDC rules on COVID to protect customers and their employees, they should be exempt from lawsuits. Do we need a state law like that, Eric?
I would hope we wouldn't even need a law like that. Like if you're walking around and it's icy outside, you're prone to fall. If it's flu season, you're prone to get the flu. Like not everybody can be responsible for. No, it's a cold, and businesses shouldn't be sued if somebody thinks they got a cold at that business.
Okay, thank you. The governor would like the legislature in session this week to vote on his 9-bill package on police reforms. They would ban no-knock warrants. They would ban chokeholds, set minimum standards for training officers, and 9 bills. Are you familiar with that package? Could you support that package?
I don't want to hinder our police force. They have a tough job. They're counselors. They're the strong arm of the law. They have to approach citizens that are under dire stress. In every condition. I don't want to handcuff our police force. They already have a tough enough job. Part of that bill is making the hiring standards harder for police. Like that's going to be a tough job to fill, especially as they're kind of cast as the villain right now, and that's not real good. And it's not motivating people to join the force. It's motivating people to leave the force. I like my police force, and I want to keep it right here in our community.
Okay. The dispute in the Capitol over who should draw the next congressional and legislative district lines. The Constitution said the party in power in the legislature, but the governors proposed a People's Maps Commission that would draw a plan and then submit it to lawmakers. Where do you stand on that question?
Probably with the Constitution. It seems like the governor wants to amend the Constitution almost, or make an exception to the rule in this case. Like if we want to amend the Constitution to say that another body does it, then that's how we should do it. But we shouldn't do it in the middle of an election cycle.
Okay. What's your position on legalizing both recreational and medical marijuana? Please.
I'm glad you asked that. This is probably the toughest question to answer. If I had to vote today, I would probably vote yes for both. I believe medicine's a practice. People are taking drugs. There's a lot of suggestions saying that marijuana could take the place of other drugs and other coping mechanisms for pain or stress, anxiety. I know some veterans use it for PTSD. I know some people use it for pain. So certainly for medical, I have a lot less hesitation saying yes for medical. For recreational, there's a lot of pros and cons to it. There's economic benefit and there's social detriment. It's just another social trap for people to fall into. It's just another poor lifestyle choice. It's not good for our bodies. We shouldn't be using it, but we also shouldn't be gambling and drinking.
Okay, fair enough. Wisconsin is a high property tax state. Let me ask 2 questions on that. Because we are a high property tax state, local governments and school districts have been living with property tax caps and limits for more than 20 years. If you're elected voting on the next state budget, should those caps and limits on property taxes stay in place?
Yes, yeah. I think the limits were there to rein in spending. We put them there on purpose. A lot of thought went into putting them in there. Should we talk about it? Should we talk about changing the limits? Sure. But the spending limits are there for a reason, to keep municipalities responsible, to keep tax increases reasonable. So I support limits, and that includes limiting how we spend and how we plan out budgets.
Because local governments are so reliant on the property tax, is it time to consider giving them alternative sources of revenue? Milwaukee, for example, would like to be able to levy a half-cent sales tax. There's a plan in the Capitol that would expand our 5% sales tax to some now exempt products and services and give some of that additional revenue to local governments. Do local governments need new sources of revenue?
I don't know if they need it. Like if we need to give them permission to raise taxes, I don't know if that's the best answer. If there's shortfalls in social needs we have to meet, then we have to meet them. But there's other ways municipalities can earn money. they could earn money on doing goods and services for the community, for contractors, utility contractors. There's other means besides raising taxes.
Okay. When a school district or a local government wants to build or authorize a major public works project, should they have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses? And one reason I ask is a study found that in 2015, out-of-state contractors on public works projects got $72 million in contracts, but that more than doubled to 146 by 2018. Should local governments have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses?
I would say yes to that. One thing that I would want to research is I kind of look at it the way that we do international trading. You know, we put taxes on things that come in. Other countries tax things that come into their country. Similar concept. If we're hiring Illinois companies, maybe Illinois pays us some, or we charge that company more. I want to give preference to Wisconsin companies, but sometimes the job is so big and there's only so many places that we can get a quote from, or only so many companies that can do that service. Sometimes you have to shop outside of Wisconsin. But I would absolutely encourage and be behind 100% Wisconsin services. That'd be fantastic if we had an infrastructure and companies that could provide every single one of our needs, building needs, construction needs. That'd be awesome. And I'd like to encourage companies to grow like that.
We've talked about a lot of issues. What other issues, or one or two issues, are important in your campaign that we haven't touched on yet, please?
I'm very passionate about education. I'm passionate about housing. I'm passionate about fiscal responsibility. Those are things that I talk about and I spend a lot of time thinking about. What are better ways that we can spend our money? What are better ways that we can reserve our money? How can we prepare nest egg? How can we be prepared for the future? Those are some of my fiscal thoughts in my head. What are better ways to teach people? That's another thought I have. And how can we make everyday living affordable? And how can we lift people up and give them skill sets to be successful in life?
Okay. Final question, differences between you and your opponent on November 3?
My opponent seems to be a little bit more fiscally liberal. She's a longtime advocate of free college and free healthcare, which sound very noble. Love to give college away for free, but it's fiscally unrealistic. And it also, like, when you give things away for free, they kind of lose their value. They get abused. If you give something away for free, people hoard it or take advantage of it. One big difference is she's more fiscally liberal. I'm more fiscally conservative. Another big difference is my experience. I spent 21 years in the Army. I started as a diesel mechanic, infantryman, and ended as a logistician. We had a lot of civil missions. We know how to handle. I spent 21 years with like crisis management, crisis planning, training planning on that. I managed the entire battalion's maintenance and logistics operations. I was part of training, administration, and I run two businesses. I founded and run two businesses in Appleton. So I also know what it takes to start a business, what it takes to run a business. So those are some key differences between my opponent and I.
Thank you. Eric Beach of Appleton is a Republican candidate in the 57th Assembly District. The election is November 3. Eric, thank you for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.